Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dietrich, and I am currently sitting in a 2025 Toyota Tundra, and I am going to teach you how to use the dynamic radar cruise control and the lane tracing assist in this car. I have done videos like this on other Toyotas, but on the 2022 and newer Tundras, and also the 2025 Sequoias, the buttons are laid out slightly differently, and this is the Toyota Safety Sense 2.5 system, so it functions a little bit differently than some of the other Toyotas. So we're going to talk about the dynamic radar cruise control, which is adaptive cruise. That maintains the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you, and it can also bring the car to a complete stop if the car in front of us comes to a complete stop. And then we're also going to talk about the lane tracing assist. The lane tracing assist is something that only works in conjunction with the dynamic radar cruise control, so you have to have the dynamic radar cruise control on for that to work. And once it is on, if the car's camera can read the lane lines, it'll try to help you keep the steering adjusted so you're in the middle of the lane, but you still need to keep your hands on the wheel. This is not hands-free driving. You still have to watch the road. You still need to keep your hand on the steering wheel. You still need to be ready to intervene. So with all that being said, the controls, step one, we have to push this button and make sure that it says that the radar cruise is active. Once that is active, when we're out on the road, we bump down to set the speed, and then we can bump up to increase the speed, bump down to decrease the speed. This button right here will modify the distance between us and the car in front of us. So obviously 3 bars is the longest distance, medium, shortest. This button toggles the lane tracing assist on and off. So we know it's on when we see those little gray lines, and they'll turn solid white when the car's camera can read the lane lines. And then if we come to a complete stop, if the radar cruise brings us to a complete stop, or if we have to tap the brakes to cancel it briefly, we can bump up, resume RES to start going again. And if it's brought itself to a complete stop, you can also just tap the gas when traffic starts moving again. That works too. So with all that being said, let's get this beautiful truck out on the road and demonstrate this for you. All right, we are out on the road. We are moving. I have the adaptive cruise on. I've already pushed that button. So now I am just going to bump down to set my speed, and then I'm going to bump the plus thing a few times to increase it, just so I know I can keep up with traffic. Now we are locked on to the vehicle in front of us. That's why there's a little white icon in front of the 3 bars, and he is slowing down and moving out of the way. So now we can watch and see what happens. Okay, it very quickly picked up the next car, and now the Tundra is bringing itself to a complete stop. And that's how that works. So a couple of things. If that car would have gotten out of my way and there was nobody in front of me with the red light, I would have had to hit the brakes, because the system does not recognize red lights or stop signs or traffic signals. So you have to be wary of that. It's always your job to pay attention and be ready to hit the brakes. And I was going very slowly, obviously. Approaching this car, I was doing like 17 miles an hour, so that was fine. But let's say you're out on the highway and you've got the speed set to like 65, and you're cruising along with nobody in front of you, and all of a sudden up ahead you just see like dead stopped traffic. Then you should hit the brakes and take control of the system. Now we're going to start moving again, so I'm just going to bump up to resume. And I do not have my foot on the gas. I didn't touch the gas. I just bumped up on that toggle switch to resume cruising. And now we are going to resume cruising. Now, something I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use this button with the car with the laser beams coming out of its rear. I'm going to push that twice and shorten it up to the shortest following distance. I do typically use the shortest following distance whenever I use these kind of systems. And you can see that car in front. Let's see, I'm going to increase my speed a little bit just so I know I'm as on him as I can be. But that's the following distance right there, at the shortest following distance at 47 miles an hour, which is what we're doing right now. So it's a reasonable distance. And if you're using this system on the freeway, which is the best place to use it, at least where I am in Southern California, if you use one of the longer following distances, it's going to be kind of a nightmare, because in medium heavy traffic, people are just going to be getting in front of you all day long, and you are never going to get there. Now, the lane tracing assist is on. That button has been pushed. And the way we know that it's active is the white lines on either side of the car. It's not doing much now and it's kind of hard to demonstrate, but it basically just controls the steering if the car's camera can read the lane lines. And you can see right now it's not doing it. See how those lines are kind of grayed out? That means it doesn't trust its own data from the cameras. But while I was talking about the lane tracing assist, this vehicle came to a complete stop again. And so once again, we have come to a complete stop in our Tundra. And that is the way that the system works. Now the light has turned green. What I'm going to do this time is just tap the gas. And that gets us moving again. We are cruising on down the road. So a couple of things to keep in mind when using this system. Number one, what type of vehicle are you following? The example I always use is a flatbed delivery truck with nothing on the bed of the truck. Are you locked on to the actual rear of the truck itself, or are you locked on to the back of the cab? So keep that in mind. I also don't love using this system to follow motorcycles, just because it's a smaller target to lock onto, and you never want to hit anybody, but you especially don't want to hit somebody on a bike because they're probably much more likely to be seriously injured, so that would be a bad thing. Using this system in heavy rain, I have done in many, many different cars, and they never really seem to have a problem with it. The one thing that I do recommend is to use a longer following distance if it is raining, because just like when you are driving yourself, instead of using the adaptive cruise, you still have a longer following distance for the vehicle. And something that you can see here, it's now a long way between us and the car in front of us because he was going faster than we were. So if you're using this system out on the open road with no cars around, it basically just works like regular adaptive cruise control. And now you see the car slowed down. Oh, now here's the deal. We got a yellow light, but I'm going to go through it because it hadn't turned red yet. So that car slowed down. We slowed down. We're going over some bumps, and then it got out of our way. I made sure that it was legal on a traffic light basis to keep going, and we kept going. And I haven't touched the brake or the gas that whole time. It's just doing its thing. But like I was saying, if you're using this out on an open highway and there's nobody around, you set it to 70, you're just going to go 70. And then if you come up on a car that's doing 60, it'll see the car that's doing 60, slow itself down, and then you'll just match their pace. And then if you move to pass or they get out of the way, then you will just be going 70 again. So it just works like regular cruise control if there's nobody in front of you. Now, what happened there was we're locked onto the vehicle in front of us. Traffic had slowed down a little bit. We slowed down for that street, and now we just keep going. And that is really where the system does its best work, especially in traffic on the freeway, that kind of traffic where you're doing 2 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. It handles the brake and the gas for you. You keep your hand on the wheel, you watch the road, you make sure that you're pointed in the direction you need to be, and you're ready to intervene if you need to be. But it really makes that kind of driving much less stressful. And one situation where you may need to intervene would be if a car cut you off from the side really close. Because the system's primarily meant to look forward. The peripheral vision, it's not as strong point. So if somebody really cuts you off, just hit the brakes, take control of the car. Make sure you don't get into an accident. You don't want to be that guy. Why'd you wreck your car? Well, I thought the car was doing its own thing. This is not a self-driving system. It's not hands-free driving. You still have to have your hands on the wheel, even with the lane tracing assist. You still need to watch the road, even with the adaptive cruise, and be ready to hit the brakes if you need to. And we are coming up to another stop, and the vehicle is stopping itself just like it should. And that's pretty much how that works. So that's my demonstration of the adaptive cruise in a Toyota Sequoia or a Toyota Tundra. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And have a great day.